We all know Trudeau's policies are making Canadians nervous, and right now, Trudeau has Canadians feeling more scared than ever, and that's through a lot of the things that he's doubling down on that just don't make a lot of sense. In today's video, we are going to be talking about the construction problem that we're having based on their new budget and housing plans. Some of the numbers that they have predicted for that, it just doesn't seem like we can ever make this happen. But we have a really actually exciting video today. I think it touches on some good points that will be helpful moving forward. Then we're going to get into one of Trudeau's failed policies, talking about the guns that we are dealing with in Canada, some of the stuff that he's trying to do, how police are feeling like it's going to be a detriment to Canadians, and then we're getting into some economic numbers. They're slowing down. Canadians are feeling fearful to spend, and we're seeing it, and that's a very concerning trend. Stick around for the final video because I think some of the things they say in that are important. Let's dive in.
Our government is betting big on new homes to help solve the housing crisis. It says it plans to build nearly 4 million homes by 2031. But who is going to build all those places? There's already a construction worker shortage in this country. According to a report by the Royal Bank of Canada, we could need more than 500,000 additional construction workers on average just to build all the homes that are going to be needed between now and 2030, so in the next 6 years.
To put that into perspective, add a little bit of context there. Based on Trudeau's plan, we have to build double our largest production year ever to hit his numbers. That's how far behind we are, that we have to do double the production numbers, and that's what we're requiring. So I bet you it's even more than that because they always undershoot it.
Joining us this morning from Victoria on how we can address the shortage is Mary Van Buren, president of the Canadian Construction Association. Welcome.
Good morning.
CMHC said construction and labor shortage is one of the three factors contributing to longer construction times in a housing supply. Is it possible to meet the target as the industry currently stands?
Well, it's certainly a challenge that we're all up for and working hard to make sure that we can have the number of workers to supply not just the housing we need to build, but also the enabling infrastructure, whether that's the sewage, the roads, the housing, and the hospitals that all go along with housing. Certainly, we're working very hard to attract workers to our industry. And some of the reasons for the shortfall are that the demographics, we have not as many people as we used to have. And so we're looking at, significant recruitment.
Not as many people as we used to have. Our population's skyrocketing.
And at the same time, we're seeing a war for talent. The U.S. is also investing trillions of dollars into infrastructure. Germany has a similar problem. So Canada's really got to stand out internationally in order to supplement our own domestic work.
And that's the thing. Canadians are nervous right now. They're scared to be here starting a business, especially with this new capital gains tax that they're talking about increasing. Like, why would Canadians be getting more into construction, starting these small businesses when at the end of it, they're thinking like, well, I'm just going to be punished for being a business owner anyways, when America wants the talent. I guess supposedly Germany, that's first I'm hearing about it, but America wants the talent. And I've heard of people going down there in construction roles, and it's much better set up for them down there than here when hey, what's Trudeau going to do? I'm nervous. I don't know what's next.
Force with immigration.
Yeah, when you hear that number, 500,000 workers, 500,000 workers that are needed almost immediately, it feels like. How are we supposed to achieve that goal? We can't do it all domestically.
Exactly, and that's where we've been working with
We actually can do it all domestically. We just need to put a refocus on what the importance is. When I was in high school and I said I thought I'm just probably going to get into the trades. They're like, no, you don't want to get into the trades. That's dumb. You got to go to university. Keep in mind, these were teachers who are in the education system now just trying to fill, oh no, you got to go to university and then you could become a teacher. Wouldn't you want to be a history teacher? It was just a bunch of bias. They talked people out of getting into the trades. Then I ended up going to university and it's like, come on.
the federal government to help change the rules in who comes into Canada. Currently, most of the points go towards those with higher education. However, we need to also prioritize general laborers to work in our industry, and we also need to have skilled trades as well. So changing that point system to allow and encourage more people with the skills we need to come in is essential.
Let me dig on that.
Huge point there. Huge point. We bring over all these university educated immigrants. They flood in, often Indians getting through this, like, you know, mill of people coming through. They just drive Uber. They try to get into different jobs. Like, and I'm not putting it all on Indians. It's just, you see it often because those are a lot of the recruiting agencies. But the point is, I've said it in other videos, we need to change the point system. First of all, we need to slash immigration. Change the point system so that it is now construction and tradespeople who we bring over. Yeah, we don't need another IT person coming over. Our IT jobs are fine.
That point a little bit, Mary, because you know that there needs to be retraining when they get here. Even if they do have a skilled trades from another country, they do have to be qualified here. And they will need housing. They'll need affordable housing when they get here in order to stay and to work. So it's almost like a catch-22.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the areas that we've highlighted that we need to have a long-term plan for the country, not just for infrastructure, but also to make sure that we have the workforce that we need, the training, that we have the capital as well. You can't create, these skilled workers overnight, as you've said. That said, we've all been working really hard with our partner associations, with other
another giant house there,
stakeholders to attract people into our industry, looking at how we can make it more attractive to women to come in to.
All right, I don't think our problem is we don't have enough women in the trades. Ladies, love ya. But I don't think our problem is women in the trades, and that's where I start to she's losing me, because it's like, oh, our problem is we don't have enough women. It's like, no, we've got a wrong priority on where people are going, again, through our education system and through immigration. Not going to go into it again.
New Canadians to Indigenous people who haven't necessarily considered a career in construction. And it's a great place to work, right? It's a lot of purpose to it. You can point to things, you can be very proud of what you've done. And we're looking at technology as well. And there's some helping.
Just because they keep showing all of those houses there, I am a real estate agent in London, Ontario. If you want to work with me in Ontario or across all of Canada, reach out to me in the link below. We can handpick somebody for your region. That being said, I just want to bring it up again how important it is, because they keep using the B-roll of these giant houses. And as a real estate agent, that's what I'm always seeing, is anytime I see a new build, I only see luxury. And then some of those were the signs were saying decidedly upscale. It's let's focus on entry-level homes again. I think that could just be such a huge impact.
Tools, things like exoskeletons, which can help reduce some of the wear and tear in the workforce. So that's also attracting new people into our industry.
The government started this initiative where they set aside about $200 million in 2025, 2026. This is for a summer jobs program to try and bolster sectors that are facing critical labor shortages, housing construction being one of them. What more needs to happen to address these shortages and to retain skilled trades workers past summer jobs?
One of the areas that has been very successful has been subsidies that have been provided to employers to attract apprentices. As you can imagine, it can be very expensive to bring on new workers, and particularly when they're already very busy. So having those sorts of incentives for employers to hire and retain apprentices, that's going a long way. And we saw a really marked improvement with the last program, particularly in attracting women into the industry. So that's a really important piece of the solution.
Okay, it's not a really important piece of the solution. Let the women stick with the female jobs. And if you're a woman in construction and you yell at me in the comments below, I apologize. You're doing great. Thank you for your service. That being said, there's a million other steps in between us needing to get women into the trades. So let's move on to the next one, which is the Canadian gun buyback program. This was a horrible rollout by Trudeau. Everything he did in this program was terrible, especially because the majority of the guns that are involved in gun crime are all illegal guns that come over from the US anyways. It's almost never from legal Canadian gun owners who are registered and all that stuff. So for them to get into this program, that's wasting tax dollars. It has people feeling unsafe trying to run it. It has the police concerned. Let's dive into it.
4 years after announcing a massive gun buyback program that the government said was aimed at getting military-style weapons off the streets, a potentially major setback. Canada Post, which was supposed to collect the banned firearms, now says it wants no part in the process, citing safety concerns.
We don't really understand their safety issue, and we hope that Minister Duclos will be able to go further in his discussion with Canada Post to have.
We don't understand why these people who just signed up to deliver mail are uncomfortable handling guns.
Another answer. We don't take no for an answer.
That's
Canada Post has declined to comment, as has the union that represents postal workers. But sources told Radio Canada that the post office is worried about the safety of employees. Shooting range owner Pierre Fanon says this potential delay is hurting his business and his customers, who are waiting for compensation. These guns are done, he says. Can't be used or given to anyone else. I can't do anything with them. They just sit here gathering dust. One reason for turning to Canada Post in the first place is that police chiefs have made it very clear they don't want to be involved.
There has to be something that gives. And is that going to mean that we don't respond to that mental health call, the person in crisis in the middle of the street, because police officers are now tied up going to pick up guns that are no longer legal to possess?
Also, 4 provinces have said they don't want to.
So that's why it's a big deal, right? Like, you have what you'd think the police would be the most concerned about the guns, but they're not scared about that because they know that this was never a problem to begin with. This was a massive misallocation of taxpayer funds. It just clogged up so much services and people and manpower that it shouldn't even been a topic of discussion. And this police officer's going, we don't want to deal with that. We have real problems we have to deal with. There's laws being broken. There's calls that we have to answer. We're not going to collect these guns from the legal gun owners who are registered. This was never a problem. This was always such a silly thing that was a big money waster. And oh yeah, it's a gun problem. It's not the legal gun owners. Those are not the ones that are involved. So if the police are not concerned about the guns, why is Trudeau so concerned about the guns? That seems like the weird thing. Anyways, let's move on to the economic numbers that we were going to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about these retail sales numbers with an expert economist. She's Veronica Clark at Citi, and she's standing by to talk about these numbers. We'll remind viewers again that retail sales for the month of February came in weaker than expected at a contraction of 0.1%. An advance of 0.1% was expected. Excluding automobiles, you get a deeper retreat in retail sales of 0.3%. An advance of 0.1 was also expected there. Veronica, these are weaker than the consensus figures and weaker than what you expected as well. What do you think of these numbers?
Yeah, definitely a bit weaker spending. I don't know if it's quite enough to move the needle too much. I mean, we do know that consumer spending has been soft for some time. Consumers are certainly feeling the pressure of higher rates. And this is maybe just a continuation of that trend. But yeah, a bit softer than we were expecting for sure.
You said
she's kind of underplaying it because when you're talking a contraction in retail spending, when we have the immigration levels that we do, which are crazy, we should have massive growth. And I've mentioned in other videos, our money is a debt-based system. We need constant growth because we need to borrow $2 to pay off the dollar that was already borrowed. I don't like the way that system's set up, but that is the way that it's set up. So if we don't see constant growth in this, and again, that's why the immigration levels that they are, that's why that's what's going on, it's really a big deal to see a contraction on retail spending. And, hopefully that will reflect in the inflation numbers. And that's going to mean, we can get that much closer to cuts.
And in a note previewing these numbers, with Bank of Canada officials likely split between a June and July rate cut, every data point in the next month and a half will be important. How do you think this data point looks to BOC members?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is, of course, inflation data that's going to be most important. And we'll have one more reading before the June BOC meeting, the reading for April CPI, and that will be most important. But it is every data point, I think, that matters. Bank of Canada officials make decisions as one unified body. And we'll hear more maybe in the minutes this afternoon from that April meeting. But if the more dovish members are looking for a June cut, maybe because they are worried about households coming under pressure and softer activity, this data this morning, I think will further that argument.
Veronica, do you think there's an import-export mix issue at all at play in these retail sales numbers? The Canadian dollar has weakened pretty considerably here, first of all, in lead up to the federal budget, but really it's been weakening and it's quite heavily shorted, actually. And so, Canada is a small, open economy, but do you think there is some mix effect going on here in these numbers?
Yeah, I would really have to dig into the detail and see which components are weaker or stronger. I guess maybe one thing to note, though, about these headline numbers, this is nominal retail sales. So it will incorporate a price impact, which could be related to Canadian dollar moves. But we actually saw that prices in February CPI were softer than expected. That was a big downside surprise. Maybe you're seeing some weakness in nominal clothing sales. That was a very weak price component in February. So yeah, I would want to dig into the details here.
Here are some of those details. The decline was led by lower sales at gas stations, while automobiles rose, excluding those two sectors, which one of the numbers does, of course. Core retail sales were little changed. All in, the report shows, this is reporting from Bloomberg News, who saw these numbers in a lockup. The report shows consumers cutting back on discretionary products, including clothing and accessories, as well as sporting goods. Does that fit your expectations, consumers cutting back on discretionary items?
Yeah, certainly that fits with the narrative of overall soft spending, consumers feeling a bit stretched. We have had a rise in the unemployment rate. We, of course, are feeling the effects of higher rates. I would note on that clothing number, if that's a nominal sales figure, maybe some of that is reflecting that we did have very weak clothing prices in the winter, January and February, and maybe some of that could rebound in March data.
So she seems pretty young. She actually answers questions really well. This is my first time seeing her across anything, but that's the point, right? Like, so anybody who I know, even people who are doing better financially, people are just nervous right now because there's this like air of nervousness out there of like, what's going to happen? Like, is it going to get worse? Or is this recession going to continue? And it's because we see the policies that Trudeau's putting out and they don't look like they're helpful at all. So a lot of people are bringing back their discretionary spending just to be prepared. Like maybe if they're not even in trouble, but then there also are Canadians who are feeling it, in their pocketbooks. And with the, people feeling it in their pocketbooks, some of them are looking at downsizing. Speaking of which, I am a real estate agent in London, Ontario. If you want to work with me in Ontario or anywhere across Canada, reach out to me in the link below. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and have a great rest of your day.